Hey, this is Joshua.
Hey, this is Dave.
Hey, what's going on? This is Brandon.
And this is Vincent DiSanti, director of the Never Hike Alone series, and you are now tuned in to PVD Horror.
All right. Hey, everybody. We are joined here today with Vincent DiSanti of Womp Stomp Films, creator of the Never Hike Alone films. Vincent, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I want to start off by saying congrats on all the success with the Friday the 13th fan films. I love how you play a big part with helping everybody else make their own films. But what inspired you to make your own fan film?
I mean, it really started with a childhood dream to work in the entertainment industry and get a job working on an actual Friday the 13th. When I started working in the industry in 2007, sort of like that's when I graduated. I got out to LA in 2008. Another film had already been in development. I was already at my first job, but I was nowhere near being able to apply to the 2009 remake film. And then the film from there was going into a series of like rewrites, and they were talking about doing sequels, and I would call Bay Films and be like, are you hiring PAs? Are you hiring anybody? I will clean the trash. I will do whatever it takes. And never got a job there. The series continued to sort of go through different cycles of development hell. It kept getting reset, put new directors on there. And as I was going on in my career, I actually found a niche in animation. So I was over in animation world working on animated films like Freebirds and Rock Dog. And another one, what was the name of it? Duck Duck Goose. It was like mostly children's animated films, but feature films that went to the theater. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot during that process, but I just felt myself not going towards the goal that I set, which is I moved out here to work in horror movies. I really wanted to work on a Friday the 13th. Wouldn't it be fun? But I also came out here to make my own movies, and I just seemed to be making everybody else's movies. And I went to this festival called the Stanley Film Festival in Estes Park, Colorado, which is held at the Stanley Hotel, where Stephen King got inspired to write The Shining. And in fact, that's where they filmed the CBS miniseries remake of The Shining. Was at this location. So they don't do the festival there anymore, but it was a really eye-opening experience when I saw kids my age with films that they got together and raised funds for and made and brought them to a festival and showed them in front of people. And some of those guys got deals. And some of those other, films were like already picked up. And I saw that this was the avenue for me to sort of grow into. But how do you go from that to sort of, how do you go from where I'm at, which is I don't have a film under my belt, to there? The path went through a 48-hour film festival, which was my first directorial thing that I ever tried. I got hired by a team to do a horror film that ended up being called The Red Room. It's like a sort of a play on Evil Dead. We had a 48-hour turnaround to come up with something. And so we sort of came up with like an Airbnb that used to be the home of this Satanist that if you read his book, he will come back and like pull you to hell type thing. Very Evil Dead inspired. And it sort of like shot that lifeblood into me. And in the back of my head, I was like, oh, it'd be fun to do like a Friday the 13th fan film, like a nice little short thing, like 5 minutes. I came up with that title, Never Hike Alone. I want to say in like 2012, 2013, I wrote it on a piece of paper, put it in, wrote a little thing and like kind of put it in a folder somewhere. And as I was in around 2015, when I made this film, I sort of pulled those files back out and started to examine how I would do it. I actually filmed a version of Never Hike Alone in 2015 with a very small group of people. And it was not good. It was out of focus. It struggled with the audio. There was no sort of professional quality to it at all. It was very run and gun. It was very it would have fit into what fan films are. And I think everyone that was sort of involved sort of was like, yeah, this is what fan films are, right? And I was like, no, if I do this, I want it to be cinematic. I want it to make it feel like a real Friday the 13th. Like what I'm trying to say is this is the Friday the 13th I want to see. Yeah. So how do I create that and kind of do that when, I think at the time I was very heavily involved in horror forums. I was talking about Friday the 13th all the time. I wasn't too happy with the 2009 remake. I would get in debates with all the people that I'm like, but they're missing all these elements, and there's all these things that they just sort of push to the side to just fall back on the formula. And I was sort of like just frustrated with the franchise. Ever since Jason Goes to Hell, I've been frustrated with the franchise because I felt like the series took a turn that it never got back from. And I was like, where is that sort of like I want that feeling again. Like, how do I recapture that feeling? And I think I explored that through Never Hike Alone, was developing that story in a way that was going to express that. Finally, I started to build a little bit bigger of a team. Things started to get a little bit better at that point. And we built enough resources to sort of come up with the trailer that we released in May of 2016, which was at that time a 5-minute idea. Kyle was going to come into Camp Crystal Lake, walk around a couple of cabins, bump into Jason, get chased out, get killed, and get dragged back into the forest and never hike alone. And that was it. Basically, the opening of Never Hike in the Snow was the original Never Hike Alone.
Oh,
That's what I originally wanted to make. Like, and that's it. That was it. That was all I was ever going to do. And instead, we discovered the abandoned camp. As I think many people have heard that story about, we went to go shoot the trailer and they told us about the camp. We discovered the camp, and that sort of like opened up this opportunity. And I looked at where I was in my career and how I was making animated films, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was, making good pay. I was doing all these different things, but maybe it was time for me to take a risk and not do the safe thing, and go all in on this idea, which I think that if I do correctly with this opportunity to work at an abandoned camp that I only know about, and a few other people who live around here, and maybe some other people that stumble across it, and we take this place over for a year. We go up as friends, as 5 people, film half the movie, raise enough funding to film the other half of the movie, with crews of 20, 25 people, stunts, all these prosthetic works. And it was just this organic way of like, hey, we need this. Let's fill this gap. And then the person who comes and fills a gap is somebody like Kelsey Burke, who is now like one of the most well-renowned and well-rounded effects artists working in the industry today. Like, she worked on Midnight Mass. She was on Swamp Thing. She's working on big movies right now. Like, we got her to work on our film for a student rate, and she brought incredible work. And it was just about assembling a team and seeing an opportunity. For those of you who are familiar with Friday the 13th, in 2017, they were supposed to release a film directed by Breck Eisner. It was canceled in January of that year. And that sort of was the final push, I think, for me. And I saw October 13th, 2017, the open date. There used to be Friday the 13th there, but there's no longer Friday the 13th. And I said to myself, there's no Friday the 13th, but there'll be a Never Hike Alone. And maybe we'll make a few people smile. And the same time, I had just in secret signed Tom Matthews to make a cameo appearance in the film, and made the decision even before I knew that there was no other film, that I wasn't going to tell anybody about it until they watched the film. Like, they would discover it by watching the film and not being told ahead of time. And then me trying to make money off of Tom when he's only in it for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? I felt that would have robbed this would have been the better experience for the fans. Like, they paid in and took a gamble, and hey, look at our cherry on top. Like, surprise. And the entire process, just like every time I made a decision or I followed it further, it felt right. I felt called to that direction. And I felt like, here's my chance. Like, I wanted to make a Friday the 13th film. And looking back on it now, 5-6 years later, I've had the opportunity to sort of become the fan face of Friday the 13th in a certain realm, in the fan film realm, and be a part of it and be associated to different projects like a 13 fanboy, or help somebody, like you said, like a Jason Rising, or, even like the his name was Jason's of the world, and the Fall of Camp Blood, and anybody who's ever sent me an email about, I don't know anything about crowdfunding, I don't know anything about fan films, but I'm interested in doing it, and I'm a filmmaker, and I think that if I had the tools, I could do it. I have a whole email that I send people saying, here are the tools you need to get started. Like, this is how it works. Here are the pitfalls. Don't do these things. Like, pay attention to these, help people avoid some of the mistakes that I made, because it's a lot of fun. And fan films allow people to follow their passion, tell stories about characters they're really passionate about, and they allow fans to explore stories that the studios just don't have the time or care to really understand, that fans really do care about these types of stories about these characters. And so, yeah, in that very long-winded answer, that's sort of what led me to it, was the fact that I discovered through the process that I wouldn't just work on a Friday the 13th, I'd be able to make my own. And not only would I be able to make my own, I'd have access to work with Tom Matthews, Vinny Guastafaro, like extend canon timelines, And even though I'm in a I consider it like a what if multiverse,
Yeah.
outside parallel, like the bizarro world Friday the 13th, that like we're not officially canon, that if you attached us, we'd fit pretty well.
Mhm.
And and that's as far as like I'll go on that, until one day maybe they do turn around and say maybe there's something to invest in this and
Sure.
get out to the people. But it was never about that. It was just about being able to contribute something to the franchise, and say something about the franchise that I don't think had ever really been said before. And then the reward was really seeing people that like, there were other fans out there that wanted what I wanted. And maybe if it all goes well, maybe we'll influence a future film, or maybe they'll call me. But I'm not going to wait. If you wait for your dreams to show up, they're just never going to show up. They don't come to you. You got to go chase them. So
Right.
I knew if I waited any longer that I'd probably still be making animated films right now.
Sure.
And we're closer to a Friday the 13th.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. And you were in another, I call it the fan film. It was like the celebrity fan film, 13 Fanboy. And you just like, you brought it up, and I loved the movie. I was ecstatic. I'm sure just like yourself, I've chatted with Deborah Voorhees online for years and years. I was super excited for that project. And it was really awesome to see you in it, actually. So how did it feel, number one, to be involved in that with such like pretty much everybody in the franchise? And at the end, were you the one that got kissed in the end?
Yeah.
And like, that was you,
me.
right?
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, what
She
the hell?
pulled that on me. Yeah. She said, oh, I need another take. And I thought we had a great take. I was like, oh man, did I fuck up? And she's like, no, I flinched. And I went, oh, damn it. Like, that was a good take. And so it was fine. And we went and did it. And she just did it literally to do that. It was to spook me. So Tracy's great. And so, yeah, Tracy came back. I mean, people ask me like, why would you do a fan, blah, blah, blah. Look at if you just look at the way that Never Hike Alone has led to things that I never really anticipated, like that's what the reward is. I mean, I'm not a millionaire. I live in an apartment in Sherman Oaks that I'm actually giving up in a week because I'm going to go make Never Hike Alone 2. And I don't want any bills. I just don't want to I don't want to have to go work for a show. Like, I'm just going to go live on people's couches for like literally the year just to make this movie. And that's how dedicated I am. And the reward of that, and why I'm so inspired, is because I've had chances like 13 Fanboy. Like when I did Never Hike Alone, that's when I met Deborah Voorhees. Deborah Voorhees reached out to me, asked me about crowdfunding, asked me to help her come up with she had this idea for a teaser and she just needed help executing it. And she needed someone to play the killer in the teaser. And she brought out Andrew. She asked if I knew any actresses that were good. Haley Greenbauer was somebody I met through Ben Meredith, who was one of the DPs who worked on our Never Hike Alone stuff. He shot the Disappear music video, was a B-cam op on Never Hike Alone. I worked with him on the recent Judy project. He shot Pathosis. And so it's all my friends who I'm just recommending to, some of my heroes, like, yeah, Deb, if you need somebody, here's Haley. Like, and I recommended a few other people too, who all submitted. And, Haley ended up winning out. So it ended up being me, Haley, Andrew, who we're all sort of like, we became very close throughout the process. And we were out there for the first teaser where we shot it at her house. I mean, there's literally a shot in the movie, and I know it, but nobody else knows it. There's like a shot of Fanboy like running through a field. And I don't think she could see it because it's so dark, but I completely eat shit. Like, because like the field dropped out and I just went whack, like it just slid across the grass, and it's in the movie. And I was like, did no one else just see me just like eat a big bag of shit right there? like, yeah, just run fast across the field. And so I was doing all that stuff because I wanted the Fanboy to sort of be like a phantom that like moves quick, and sort of had fun with it. But it was crazy. And so, through that process, I get introduced to CJ, and well, I sort of like, I met sort of some of these people through Never Hike Alone. Like I met CJ on the circuit. I bumped into him when I met Tom, and Tom introduced me to him and Tom McLaughlin. And I met them sort of naturally through the Never Hike Alone process. I had met Kane doing the Friday the 13th game. We got to work together on his kill in that game, the free kick. I got to design that. And so we got to work. So I sort of knew Kane through that. And so he recognized me on set, and now we see each other at conventions and sort of talk, he gave me some good pointers when we were working together. I mean, but part of it was really cool. Like I got to fight 2 Jasons and I kicked both their asses. They're gonna come after me.
Yeah.
They're gonna jump me in the bathroom. But technically on screen, the fanboy gets away. So
that's why they left that scene of you eating shit in there, because they were pissed off that you beat them
yeah.
up.
Yeah, so it was a lot of stuff like that. And then I got to meet, Judy Aronson was like a dream come true. I mean, she was so, it was so funny. I had to sit her down and explain to her like what a fan film is and who I was and how I got kind of associated in, but we bonded right away. Obviously got to meet Tracy Savage. She came back and did stuff for our Ghost Cut, which was really cool. Met Ron Sloan for the first time. So Ron Sloan was somebody who had like said, "Hey, Never Hike Alone, great job." And like we ping pong back and forth like messages every now and then. He was very encouraging. We finally got to meet each other on 13 Fanboy and kind of got to do that. Meeting Dee Wallace and a lot of the other alumni who got involved. The only person I missed was Corey Feldman. He left the day that I came in, and I didn't even know I was going to play the Fanboy until I got there. I knew I was doing the stunts. I knew I was going to go in and take all the hits, but I didn't realize that my character that was then going to assume the fanboy thing, because there were so many rumors about who it was going to be. And I'd always ask Deb, I'd be like, you got to tell me who it is, because I don't want it to be obviously me. And then you go to like Corey Feldman and it's obviously like, that's not going to make any sense. But then she was like, no, it's you. And so I had already rehearsed everything because I was going to say everything under the mask for the actresses to like respond. I was going to be like whoever was Darth Vader. You know what I mean? That's the way I went into the project. Like, oh, I get to be that guy that like played Darth Vader, but isn't James Earl Jones. Yeah. Like, that's not too shabby. Like, I'm down with that. Like, somebody else is in the Scream costume. Like, there's somebody else doing that. So whatever, like, I'm cool with this. This is a great experience. And so then I get to take it to the acting level, and acting is a lot of fun for me. It's sort of the one area where, I just honey badger it. I'm like, honey badger don't give a fuck. And I'm more just there to have fun and explore. And like, I'm not like with directing, I'm very focused and like locked in and things need to be there. But acting is just pretending and saying lines and memorizing things. And so it's and you get to sort of act things out, and it's fun. And I like putting on a show. So so that was sort of it was a dream come true. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. It was that these experiences become a dream come true the more that I sort of get to bump in and have different experiences with alumni and other people that are associated with the franchise.
Josh just lost all of his questions because they were all going to be based around your experience meeting Corey Feldman.
Okay.
And and that didn't happen. So now he has no. Josh, you can leave now if you would like.
Hey, we can sing "Go For It" if you want. If you really,
I did. Corey was at the premiere. He just didn't say anything to anybody. He was there, but it was cool. Yeah, we got to do the premiere in LA. It was a good time.
That's awesome.
Did three screenings. I did 2 of the 3 screenings. It was nice. We went out it was good to see everybody. It was definitely a fun thing.
That's awesome. So Vincent, like ages ago, I don't even remember what year it was, but Brandon and I met up with you when you were back at home, which is pretty cool. And when we were meeting up, you were kind of telling us about all these really creative and big ideas you had for projects and like involving the Friday the 13th franchise. And I'm just curious, like, do you still have your eyes set on some of those projects? Or, I mean, that's been years in the making, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, Never Hike Alone 2 is sort of, I think, at least it for a while, because there's original ideas that I want to do. In fact, there's something I want to shoot back in Massachusetts, in my hometown, that I have an idea for. I think part of my journey in the next kind of couple of years is getting out of LA, coming back home. There's a growing film industry back in Massachusetts that I'm hearing more positive things about. And I want to go explore that opportunity, because I'm sort of like, I don't know, I miss home, and I feel like I can go there and make an impact in a lot of different ways. I also know that with the Never Hike Alone stuff and building a fan base and a channel on YouTube, we're almost at 50,000 subscribers now, that there's a viable source of sort of a fan base that I can entertain, that if I can raise a little bit of money on Kickstarter, it doesn't need to be $150,000 like we're doing right now, but we can focus on something like a $20,000-$30,000 short that we can shoot in our hometown, and that $30,000 will go so much further than it would in Los Angeles, because we'd have access to free locations. And like, that's sort of like the way I kind of want to do it. I want to go find great locations that I can shoot and make cinematic and write stories to them, and put stories that I have in different scripts. Oh, you know, it would fit in here, this story or that story, and sort of have that freedom, where out here, there's just so many hoops you got to jump through. The more traveling I've done for like conventions and film festivals, and I'm meeting filmmakers from all over the country, I'm realizing that like, you don't have to be in LA. And I always sort of knew this, but that there is a way to make film and kind of rise above it, you know, from other places. You know, as long as the content's good and you can continue building a fan base, then there's a way to do it, and there's people to reach out to. And I can always fly to LA. I can always, like, I had to create my connections out here. I had to put in the time to learn everything that I've learned, but now I'm realizing that I can be more of a mobile quarterback and get outside the pocket a little bit, and, you know, go live and work in Massachusetts for life, and fly out to Portland for a project, fly out to Michigan for a project, Flagstaff, LA, wherever I got to go. Maybe I make some, you know, we can go to Canada, we can shoot it anywhere in the world. There's all these opportunities. All I have to do is raise money. And I believe, you know, what I believe in the Never Hike Alone project is that it's going to show, or it should show people what we're capable of. And that when it comes time for us to manage bigger budgets and bigger ideas and follow through with original features, that we have all this work under our belt. Like, yeah, we're a fan film and there's a built-in audience, but we still have to do the work. We still have to shoot it and make it look good. You know, the actors still have to come and bring performances. Our special effects still have to look above and beyond anything you've ever seen at other film festivals and what you normally see online. These aren't cheap tricks. These are like the professional people doing the professional things, and it's all fan driven. So that's even cooler. And the fans can continue to drive original stuff too. So, you know, it's really like, so when it comes to like the Never Hike stuff, like, that's why I want to finish this as sort of the proof of concept for us now to step into that original venture, because it is time for us to start doing our original ideas. But like, again, I'm not going to hold up the rest of my career waiting for Warner Brothers to give me a call back and be like, oh, we're good now. Like, you got all those ideas still? And I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Like, if they call me, I'm ready. If they don't, maybe a year and a half or 2 years from now, I'm like, you know, it'd be fun. That one short, I bet I could go put together 50 grand for that real quick. And maybe the more I kind of talk about things, because, you know, I'm going to start developing the Womp Stomp channel a little bit more. I don't know if you guys saw the Ghost Files things that I started with. I did the pilot and the live. We'll probably be back on Sunday with another live with the guys from Jason Rising. But I want to start experimenting with that and engaging with people and talking to people about, you know, if they have questions about crowdfunding, or they got a project, or, you know, something like that. You know, I talked about a good friend of mine, Tony Wash, who I met, who directed a film called Skeletons in the Closet, which was in the indie circuit for a long time. And I think it's available on streaming platforms somewhere. But, you know, we used to do like this No BS podcast thing where we talk to indie filmmakers and help them sort of figure out where they are at in their production and what's holding them up, and maybe talk them through, or kind of give them some people to talk to that might help them sort of get over what they need to do to finish their projects. But through building the channel, that being engaging and talking about things, being open with fans, there may be enough support where people keep pushing for things. Like, we released the Jason versus Wolfman trailer for fun. That was something we shot with this director. His name's Stephen Wolf, and his team over at Hawthorne House Productions, not Hawthorne House Productions. And they had never released it. And I had played Jason for them, and we had talked about it and had a lot of fun. Ken, the DP, did a great job on it. Thought it looked really cool. Shot it with these classic lenses. They weren't super happy with like the way the Wolfman came out, but the way it's shot, it's so silhouette-y that you can't really tell the makeup's not the greatest. And we released it. I convinced him to, like, I thought about it, like came up in my thoughts, and I reached out to Steve and I was like, where did that go? Because I saw a cut and it was decent, but what had ever happened to it? You know, he never finished it. He wasn't happy with it. So I had him send it to me, and I had our editor from Never Hike in the Snow do a little treatment on it. And that's basically what we ended up releasing on Halloween last year. And I can't tell you how many comments that I get now. They're like, when's this coming out? I want to see this. I want to see this. And we had decided that it wasn't that we're sort of over fan films in a way, that it was like, guys, like I'm doing Never Hike Alone 2. Then what am I going to do? Go right into this? And then I'm like, nah, I'm just never going to get out of fan films. Like we can't keep, like, there's actually a really good story in this. And I would want to develop that as an original story. And they sort of like pivoted with me. And so right now we're working on an original feature script that features about, it's about werewolves and kind of telling its own little tale based on that. But in the same time, we ended up coming up with this new story that's sort of its own unique thing. And I've got so much pushback from fans to say that they want to see it. We're now reconsidering possibly being able to address this maybe next Halloween. You know what I mean? Or maybe I kind of hand it off and say, okay, well, you got to give that money to Hawthorne House because Womp Stomps it's going to be like a Jason Rising project. Like we're going to co-produce. Or maybe the best thing is for Womp Stomp Films to host because our name draws that sort of quality value that people know that they're going to get. And I feel comfortable putting that responsibility in those guys' hands and what we'll create and what we have to work with. We're probably going to film some of that stuff up at the original camp too, to kind of make it work.
Nice.
So there's a lot of fun things to do. Sometimes the problem with being creative is there's just too many ideas.
Yeah.
You just kind of got to prioritize them. And the way I prioritize them right now is Never Hike Alone 2 needs to get done. And then I have an animated film called Ghost Chicken, which maybe you guys have seen some stuff. I posted stuff about it. It was a script that was doing really well at the competitions. I got it storyboarded. It's about a 22-page script, be about a 25-minute short or like a half hour. It's almost like a pilot episode, really. And yeah, it's about a vegan restaurant haunted by the ghost of a chicken and the one girl determined to figure out why. It's fun. It's got like kind of a Daria, Beavis and Butthead, Bob's Burgers type feel to it. And I'm going to work with a company called Mako Animation in Mexico to get it animated and fully done. That will be a crowdfund that I run later on this year after Never Hike Alone 2 has been completed. And then I'm going to step into the live action genre with a brand new short film, tentatively titled EMF. Might change, but that's going to be a pretty cool one. Tom Matthews is going to come back for that and star in that role too. It will be a 15-page short that is kind of a concept for a feature that we want to bring to the festival circuit and look to sort of in my sort of goal that I'm setting for myself is to create a short film that I can get into even bigger festivals, that even though it's a horror film, that it will still be executed in a way that makes it feel like, oh, damn, like this could be a feature film. What is the story behind this, or who are the filmmakers behind this? And having a bigger conversation about our entire slate of things that we've written and prepared, feature films, short films, pilots, different ideas. So you always got to be ready for something. If Warner Brothers calls, I got to be ready to pitch Friday the 13th. If Blumhouse calls and they want to hear one of these original pitches, I gotta pitch one of those original things. That's just basically the way it's got to go. And in the meantime, these projects are what I got to focus on. And the more projects I complete, the better chance I have of being able to pitch my projects to somebody who will hopefully fund it and help me make them.
I feel like your thoughts go and your like ideas go at like 100, whereas mine are like probably like a speed like 20. Like I get the same vibe from you that we got when we met with you years ago when you had all the Friday the 13th ideas. It's like I feel like your ideas just keep coming and coming and coming, and like you're definitely not at a shortage of ideas. It's just the ability to be able to make all these projects.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, like you need to separate an idea from something that is executable. Like it's a great idea, it's a great pitch, it's a great elevator pitch. I tell you something and like it's great, but then you start to think about it, like how does that expand into a story? What do those scenes look like? And that's sort of where my head goes next. And then it goes into that level, and then it's starting to like pull the pieces apart and build the structure and think about, is this entertaining? You know what I mean? Like, is this just waxing poetic, watching things happen, like sitting on a bump on a log type scene where it's like, oh, I guess this is like cool that we're knowing this information, but is this an interesting scene, or is it just two people talking? And so a lot of that time, like that's where they sort of go. So that's the next kind of place they need to be examined. But I love to kind of come up with ideas and come up with big picture, and then you start to whittle down and get into the details, and that's when the stories really come to life.
Yeah.
You talked about home, and for those that don't know, Massachusetts is right next to Rhode Island. Literally, like Rhode Island literally takes a half hour to go through. So, and you're in Mass. Connecticut, half hour, Mass. but when you talked about home, we owe you a huge thank you. Years ago, so we've been doing movie nights for years and years and years, and you let us show your first film, and dude, we can't thank you enough. The response was incredible. We had like, I think that event brought in like 300 people at that place or something. That was the big one, right?
Cool.
And so
Well, tell them. I mean, we should tell the listeners also the really ironic part of that was your parents showed up.
Yeah.
yeah, dude,
And like,
the whole time I had no idea they were your parents.
And I don't think they knew that we had talked beforehand. And
No,
like,
yeah. They would just, I told them that it was going on, and I was like, you guys should stop by and check it out. And so, yeah,
they sat next to us too, which was also funny. And they won like prizes and stuff like that.
Prizes.
I was like, Mom, I'm like, you'll win prizes. Give that away.
She said she didn't have that hat.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I got to give her a hat. It
was great. We had no idea it was your parents either. They were talking to us, and they were absolutely wonderful. Yeah, they were talking to all the other, like, there was some other local Friday the 13th fan, like, you know, big fans there. And I saw them talking away to everybody, and, you know, they were just having their moment. It was cool.
Yeah, no, it was good. They're really proud, and they, you know, it was fun. Like, they were always supportive throughout the process. They, you know, it was, my mom sort of had like an aha moment. I think maybe that event maybe helped that. She kind of realized what was going on and what we did, and how many people we reached. And she sees sort of the wake, you know what I mean? Like, as we move through this, there's a wake that we leave behind, and it's not intentional to say that, you know, there's no, like, a lot of it's unintentional. It's just happening. And I'm just sort of reacting to it and being like, oh, okay, people like it. Like, that's great. Let me interact. Let me just do this. I'll just be me. And then, like, meeting other, you know, filmmakers and things like that. So it's just been like the experience overall. It's just been, I mean, it's life-changing, and it's been a blessing and a curse all at the same time. It's been a lot of hard work, but that's what makes it worthy. It's like, you know, every film I work on, I always tell every filmmaker when they get to that part during the film where they just want to, like, put everything down, it's like, none of this will matter when the film's up on the screen. You'll feel a lot better about everything. And so I've just kind of come accustomed to that. Like, things don't bother me as much anymore. I sort of see the bigger picture, and I know that there's a long path, and that, like, no matter what problem comes up, there's a way through it or around it. And you just got to sort of put in the patience and wait. And as long as you keep pressing, eventually it all comes together. And then you just got to stand by your work. And then that's what it comes down to. And I think that that's sort of like the greatest part about this. It's like, the stories and the ideas just aren't up in my head anymore. You know, I'm not just an audience of one sitting back in this row of seats that's somewhere in my brain where I go to when I come up with these ideas, but it's literally like watching a movie. And when you guys watch my movies, these are movies that I've watched in my head for years. And I've replayed these scenes again and again in my head. And maybe they don't come out exactly like they were in my brain, but the things that need to be said, and the way that things kind of come together, and the ideas of, like, you know, something as simple as like putting an axe in Cortland's mouth and having that happen for the fact that I wanted to give everybody that wow factor. Yeah. You know, just that experience of like, oh, I want to show this people because I know it's going to make them go wow, or I want to show them this because I want to say something about a story or something about emotion or something. I'm, you know, whatever factor I'm kind of going into, it's like they're all expressions. And the more you get to share them, the more you kind of get to share your voice, or you get to kind of have your influence on different characters. And it's just a really cool thing. I mean, and to see it come to life through the art of cinema and the process of cinema, working with the team and seeing it going from a script page to, you know, a table read, to rehearsals, to shooting, to editing, to coloring, to VFX, to then all of a sudden the sound and the score comes in, and you just see it all, like, sort of like, at one point you're like, why did I do this to myself? I'm crazy. This is garbage. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden, you know, 60 days later, you're like, man, we made a good movie. Like, oh shit, this ain't bad. I'll watch this. Yeah. I think the kids will like this. Like, you know, and you know, sort of like also going into it with sort of like, these are our lumps that we'll have to take. Like, I knew with Snow, I was walking in like, everyone's going to be mad when these credits roll. I even designed it in a way that was sort of like, oh man, everyone's going to get punched right in the balls with this, but it's just got to be the way it is right now. Like, cut here. Like, this is where the story ends for now, because there's no other way to shoot anything else until a pandemic lifts. And, you know, I ended up having to take one in the teeth for all like the, you know, I think shipping tripled. You know, material costs for everything went up. It was insane. And, you know, we had to eat all the savings that we had from the film, like ours got ate up, and just sat there and paid my taxes on it. You know, I didn't get to spend it that year. Like, my hope was that I'd go through the entire process, spend all the money, and then in taxes, then you actually spend more. And then in taxes, you either get a tax break and you break even, or you end up getting some money back. And I could have put that towards something else, you know what I mean? But we didn't have a chance to do that. So we had to put it in the last year. And so this year we're going to get a little bit of a tax return that's going to go on top of what we make for Never Hike Alone 2. And it's just going to continue to help us sort of go there. It's always been like this, the money that has sort of been generated by everything that we've done has always been part of like a train. It's just keeping the Never Hike Alone train going. It's paying for the next advertisement that I have to pay for Facebook, and all the different things, all the websites and things that we have to be connected to in order to keep the system going. And it's, you know, super helpful for us because it helps us reach everybody, and it helps us build a bigger network of fans. And so it's a lot more work than I think that people realize.
We know you're a big fan of Jason. What are some of your favorite horror movies besides Friday the 13th?
Oh man. Well, I just saw X, and that was amazing.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
That was good. I'm a big fan of Ty West. I'm a big fan of Lee Winnell. Upgrade is one of my favorite movies. Even though it's not a true horror movie, I think Nightcrawler is like one of the greatest thrillers of all time.
Yes,
Probably one of my favorite movies. I kind of have a Lou Bloom look. So every time I watch that movie, I'm like, this is me as a complete psycho. This is where I would go if I went off the fucking deep end. I'd be a Lou Bloom. I got to watch myself, make sure I don't show any of these tendencies. Because there's also part of Lou Bloom that I'm like, oh yeah, go get what you want, man. Like, you go earn that dream, like, go get it. Like, I get that. Like, I understand that drive, but I love it. So that's how Nightcrawler scares me. You know, I'm a big fan of the classics, you know, the Night of the Living Dead series. Big fan of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the originals. Even the remake that they did in 2003, I thought was really, really cool. I'm just like a big Godzilla fan. Huge into Godzilla. Like, I got that the Criterion big collection thing. It's so great.
I got my Godzilla right here, man.
Nice. Yeah, I think mine. Where's mine? Do I have any around here? They're back over there. But yeah, no, I'm a big guy. I grew up on monster films. I grew up on those types of films. But now it's like, let me see what else.
When's the Godzilla fan film coming?
Never, because Toho will sue me so quick. They're so fast. They know it. I'm like, God, I just start typing in G and there's an email in my box.
Don't even think about it.
I don't even think about it. Like, I would love, I mean, if I could raise the money to do my own suit, are you kidding me? My one of my other biggest dreams, maybe it is something I do in the future, is that, like, maybe I don't make a movie, maybe say, hey guys, I'm gonna build a cosplay. Let's crowdfund a cosplay. And I'll also build a city in my backyard, and maybe I'll film some things that will be really fun and create content. And then maybe content won't translate into movie film, and it will be I'll get away with it, and it will just be me stepping on cardboard buildings like I used to when I was a kid. When I was a kid, and I used to have my lemonade stand. It was called King Kong Lemonade, and I used to take big boxes and I would create skyscrapers. And I would be on the other side of the table, and I have King Kong hanging on the side of the scrapers, and like all the Godzillas like fighting. And it was King Kong Lemonade. It was great. So that's how much of a friggin' nerd I am. Yeah, let me see what else. I love giallo films. I got addicted to those over the years. I think those are great. I've been going back and watching some of the old classic, like Hammer style films from like the late 60s, those like stage productions, which are really cool. Just sort of like, I'm just a big fan of cinema. It's tough to say like what your favorite film is. I just think that I love discovering new things. I think that between Upgrade and Nightcrawler, those are probably the two most perfect movies I've ever seen. And I want to create horror films that sort of echo the way those films are made, and just how well the characters are structured and the way that the stories are structured. I think that those are two things that I focus on. And then the fun stuff of the, you know, the special effects and the kills and sort of whatever the supernatural elements and kind of those experiential things are, that those are the bonus parts. But it's all built on stuff that, like, if it didn't have the extra gore and things like that, people probably wouldn't consider it horror. And they'll probably want to be like, oh, this is elevated or thriller. I'd be like, no, this is a horror movie. It's just, I'm not stopping at a place where, say, like a Texas Chainsaw remake sort of makes it sort of like a big joke, and is a film where you hate everybody that's in it and you just can't wait for them to die. And there's no real effort into trying to put logic together or trying to make things really work. It's just about setting up a bunch of gags, giving people what they want in that sense. Like, that is a horror movie, and those can be fun. And I've had fun at those movies. And I did watch the new one and had enough fun where I enjoyed it. I didn't like have to have any wars with anybody on Twitter about it. But at the same time, I recognize sort of that, like, this could have been a slightly smarter movie and it might have been better off for it. Maybe the controversy is helping it. I don't know, but there's lots of, like, you know, I watch those films and say there's lots of opportunities here where, like, there were other outs and there were other ways to execute that could have really been, you know, that CineScore probably would have been up a couple points. But sometimes, like, honestly, like, decisions like that don't always make films better. Like, even though it's technically a on paper better film, sometimes it's those things that are flawed with them that make them what makes them. And the more controversial they are and the more people that talk about it, the more people watch it. So there is something to be said about that. But, you know, I think that, like, for me, my base standard is that it's that I don't want to have the film that's like, why wouldn't the character do this? And I want people to say, like, wow, I was engaged. Those characters felt real. I was scared for those characters. And I can't believe that guy got his head removed with that thing. You know, like, that was insane. That effect looked so real. I was, like, wincing. And, you know, it's like those, you want people to have natural reactions like that. That's sort of where I want to come at as a filmmaker. And that's how I aim it.
Yeah. So, you know, let me ask you this question. So I think we all have our own reasons behind, like, why we connect with certain slashers or villains in films. I know even just with the three of us, like, you know, I'm more of a Freddy guy. Brandon loves Jason, and Josh loves Psycho Sisters, which I don't know what that says about Josh, but I mean, why Jason? Why do you connect with Jason?
I mean, I think for me, it was definitely because I grew up on a lake. I grew up in the woods. And when I watched Friday the 13th, that felt like the most thing like home to me. And that's where I felt like, oh, that's where I live. Like, I didn't really connect with suburbia. I didn't really connect with, you know, Halloween, like and Nightmare on Elm Street. They felt like they took place in the Midwest. They felt like they were in the rows of houses that just went on forever. And I grew up in a place that was more like you took side streets and you ended up down on, like, a little river lane, and, like, you lived out in the woods. And when you went in your backyard, you could jump into the forest and walk out, like, miles away, like, without ever seeing a surface street. And so, you know, kids got lost in the woods where I grew up. Like, that's sort of the place we grew up. And so when Jason sort of became the boogeyman for both the forest and the lake, everywhere I looked, it was a place where Jason could be. Watch Friday the 13th, Jason Lives. Jason gets sunk to the bottom of the lake in that one. And the next three movies, he ends up at the bottom of the lake. Like, you know, he wakes up in part 8 at the bottom of the lake. There was all those scenes with him at the bottom of the lake. And so I used to think that he was down there, or that I would turn a corner in the forest and there he would be, like, walking through the forest, minding his own business, and then see little old me and then come chasing me. And, you know, I used to have dreams where, like, I would see Jason and I would climb a tree and he would cut it down, or I would see Jason, I would crawl in a bush and he would pull me out. And a lot of those things ended up in Never Hike Alone. Like the scene where Kyle's trying to get away and Jason grabs him before he can, like, those are nightmares that I had. And they were part sort of terrifying, but also part kind of fun. It was like a video game that I knew that I was going to live. I kind of knew that Jason wasn't real and that stuff, but it was like a fun adventure for me to be like, ooh, could I survive Jason? Like, is Jason out here? Am I gonna have to run? Like, you know, because you watch these horror movies and you're like, these fucking people can't get away, dummy. Get in the car and drive away. What are you doing? You fell off one story. You didn't die. Oh, your butt hurts maybe, but you're not dead. Like, get up. Like, you got the wind knocked out of you. And like, you know, it's just the silliest things would kill people, or people would walk right into stuff. And it just sort of prepared. Like, I was always prepared. My house, like, Jason wasn't going to sneak up on me. Like, he wasn't going to get me in the woods. He wasn't going to grab my foot. I was always prepared. And I think there was something fun about those films. And then they were fun. And I just thought the costume was awesome. That was the other part of it too. It's just like, straight up, like, the costume's just the raddest costume ever. And it just works. And it works for Michael. It works for Freddy. It works for Jason. The reason why they stand above is because they are so well designed as characters on a screen, as characters on a poster, as graphic art, as their names, like, everything about them just clicks. Like, it just clicks and you can't explain it. And you just seem that, like, yeah, Cropsy's cool, but he's no Jason. He didn't get the same treatment Jason. I don't see people walking around in burnt Cropsy face masks all the time. Like, I see people in hockey masks. Something so common that when you go into your storage room, if you live in the Northeast, is everyone's got hockey masks everywhere. You don't know, maybe not, I might not have the specific Friday the 13th mask, but they sort of all have that sinister look to them. It's something so common. We've seen it, like, it's the reason why you see hockey masks pop up in films all over the place, because people associate Friday the 13th with the hockey mask. And it's something that I talk about with people all the time. It's that no matter who gets involved with Friday the 13th, it no matter whether they were involved with the first film with no hockey mask, or they're going to be on the 23rd installment in, you know, the year 2076, it's the hockey mask is going to transcend it all. It's going to be the one thing that connects everything to it, that when you put that on a poster, that's the thing that's going to draw eyes, and people are going to be interested in what's going on in that film. And it worked on me. When I walked down that VHS aisle and I looked over and I saw 7 hockey masks lined up in a row, I went, ooh, like, what's this?
Yep.
That looks cool. And the rest is history. It's that simple. But I think it's like, then you pile all those other things on, and it was inevitable.
So tell us about Womp Stomp Films and how did that get created?
Womp Stomp Films was definitely when I started looking into, like, do a film, like, I understood you needed insurance and you needed some type of entity in which to house the film. So if anything ever went wrong, no one could come after me personally. Like, if something happens at my shoot, like, Womp Stomp Films can be held responsible, and whatever Womp Stomp Films is, we'll have to deal with it, but it won't deal with my personal life, and it won't, like, kind of infringe on that. It's also a place where, like, you want to be able to track expenses and work with taxes, because if you try to do it through your personal accounts, it's just going to, like, throw your taxes way off and all that stuff. So it really started as an avenue to sort of house the Never Hike Alone project in something that would protect me. And I needed a company, and I had been developing Womp Stomp as, like, a brand on Instagram, that it was my photography. It's like, you know, at the time, like, I wasn't making films. I was just taking photos with, like, I had a camera and then I had my phone. And so I'd usually take a picture with my actual camera and then, like, edit it and then put it on my phone. And I sort of was like, when I was going to do the film, I was like, oh, I should do Womp Stomp Films. That kind of makes sense. Like, that flows. And I kind of like it. And Womp Stomp had actually started from just a username that I used all throughout my life, ever since basically the invention of the internet. There was a Nintendo 64 game for Star Wars that was like Star Wars Battle something, and you typed in Wampa Stompa on the cheat code, and you could be a Wampa and run around the level and start smashing stormtroopers and stuff like that. So Wampa Stompa was my username for everything, like on Xbox, on PlayStation when I switched over, and like AOL and all that stuff, MySpace and all that shit. And eventually when I got to Instagram, somebody had taken Wampa Stompa, so it shifted to Womp Stomp. And then it just extended into Womp Stomp Films. And, you know, it was for Never Hike Alone, but it was also for the standpoint of like, oh, I get to create my own stuff now. So if I want to have my own company, now we can create my own content. So we do original stuff with it too. And it was just a place for us to sort of do it through the professional level, that there was an LLC there that we could attach insurance to, that, you know, everything could be done legitimately. And it wasn't like mom and pop shop trying to do it with our, you know, coming out of my personal checking account and stuff like that. Like, that's just red flags everywhere. Like, if I'm taking on $50,000 and it's in my personal account, you know, who's to say where it gets spent, and how am I going to be able to track it if, say, I have automatic bill payments and it's just coming out, you know what I mean? Like, so how am I tracking what's my personal money and what's the film money and all these different things? And so it just made it so much easier, and a brand identity, you know what I mean? And I think over the years, what we've tried to do is create that brand identity of Womp Stomp. Like, they're going to come out of the box with something that is unexpected, that you don't realize that, like, somebody could find this level of production value with only this much money. And it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be, it's just going to be good. That's the only thing I want associated with it. Was like, if it's got a logo on it from Womp Stomp, it's like, whatever it is, it's going to be good. Like, it's going to be enjoyable, like, for better or worse. Like, even some of our like lower budget stuff and some of the stuff that we've just assisted on, like, I always feel that we've come on and we've made a difference for the better. That it's 10% better because we got involved and we pushed a filmmaker in a certain way to say, don't settle. Like, don't settle. Like, you got, that goal is only 2 more days of work ahead of you, and you have it in you, and it will pay off in the film. And I think that the best example of that was Jason Rising. I think that those guys went above and beyond, and I pushed them so hard throughout the process where they would get to a point and they would get stumped, and I would come in and be like, you guys got it. Like, if you guys can kind of do this and this, you still have those pieces, you still got these things. And, like, you know, it's tough to see it when you're in the thick of it and the forest through the trees, and they're not thinking about all the resources at the same time because they're focused on a problem, and someone can come in sort of fresh, not worn down by the process, and say, well, you guys have this, and so you can use this element to do this, and that's how you get around it. Or, you know, just someone with a different eye to come in and do that. But every time I came in and was like, there's a way to improve, they were all ears. And when we would work together, and you know, they would have to, you know, there were weekends where they knew they had to do extra work, and, you know, it was tough. You know, they put in a lot of hard work for that, but I was just so impressed by the fact that, like, they believed in their project so much and they didn't want to let the fans down, that they were willing to go out and do all these things. And those are the people that I try to associate myself with. And, you know, in the process, it's like, you meet people who do stuff like that, and then you try to distance yourself from people who sort of don't follow those principles, or are more sort of like less organized, or sort of like, you know, because we've seen sort of people kind of come up who are into it for more of the notoriety than the actual expression of the art side. And that's sort of those times where I get, or I'm less inclined to help people, less inclined to be sort of like giving my time to people who are just there to be like, hey, you made a fan film and you got famous, right? So how do I make a fan film and I get famous? It's like, listen, if you're in this to get famous, you're in the wrong business. Like, this isn't the way to do it. And, like, if we're the top tier, like, what is the hope for underneath that? Like, and even if you best us, like, what is, like, this is as big as it gets. Like, this is as far as it's taking us. And, like, we lucked out for the fact that, like, there was a game going on at the same time. There was a puzzle game that was going on at the same time, that there were opportunities for us to sort of like expand out and sort of do things and be recognized in that way. And, like, it's so crazy to me that some people sort of look at this as a way to get famous, rather than they really have something to say about Friday the 13th. And I think that if there was one regret I had about doing all this stuff, is seeing some of those things pop up and being like, oh, like, are you in this for the right reasons? Are you here because you really love this franchise, or is this because you want to blow smoke up your own ass? And, and you know, it becomes sort of like this, like, circus out there. And, you know, I see a lot of good, well-meaning fan films kind of get sucked under the void sometimes. And I think that's where I try to step in. I try to make sure that, like, the little guy out there doing it for the right reasons. Like, I'd rather support somebody who's got $5,000 and a great idea than somebody with like $100,000 and their only concern is sort of like, you know, how many conventions they can book that year. And it's just sort of like a mentality of my thing about fan films is, like, the fans are, like, the films are supposed to be made for the fans. And that's such a focus in what we do, is the fact that, like, everything that we raise, everything that we do goes back into the film. It's all about the film being the product for the fans. This is why they've given us the money. They put us responsible for the fact that we need to create a product that they have been promised, and we need to deliver on all fronts. And, it's sort of I think it's a big responsibility making a film. There's a lot of independent filmmakers out there trying to raise money. I hear a lot of complaints about fan films taking up space in that arena, where there's good original films out there trying to raise money. And, what's crowdfunding on this week? It's Never Hike Alone 2, making $60,000. These fucks, like these sons of bitches out here raising all this fan film money. And I can't, like, my absolute, like my Iliad and Odyssey that I want to make in my hometown, like I've only raised $500, and it's like they blame us because they can't raise money. And it's again the same thing. It's like people just expect to show up with an idea and people just to like run at them, and they don't realize how much work it takes to sort of generate excitement about a project. Like even Never Hike Alone, when we first released it, we didn't reach our goal. Like I had a $50,000 goal. I got to $32,000, and I was on Kickstarter, and I didn't get any of the money. I started from scratch with nothing. The original 10 grand that I put in myself, but I found people through Kickstarter to invest in me personally. And that's how I was able to raise the money to shoot the first half. And then in the back end, we were able to raise $20,000. So I think people who sort of like have come at us in a way that have been like, oh, this is a big money-making scheme. It's like, actually, no, we've been actually pouring money into this project since the beginning. We've been underfunded since the beginning. And I'm just circling back around now that we've established this sort of brand, and the fact that other films have been able to come through after all of this has been established and have been successful in raising money in a way that if Never Hike Alone never really set this bar, there was no raising any of this money. So why don't we get a chance to do it? Like, since we built the house, can we live in it for a cycle or two and try to make the thing that we originally wanted to try to make? And so it's been like kind of a balance of all those things, like, helping other people, figuring out how you're going to get your own projects done, and figuring out who's in it to like dedicate themselves to a project, and realize that like there's a lot of work that not only goes into making the film, but in doing the fan funding, doing the campaigning, and then doing the fulfillments, which is all it's a big responsibility. You become a small business. Like I said to someone the other day, you're a filmmaker, you're a salesman, and you're a business owner, and you're the shipping and receiving department, and you're all these different things, and you got to deal with it all in between your daily life and your job. And if you got kids, if you're that stage of your life, like, oof, bless you. Like, I don't know. I see a lot of people who are in that position, and I look at them and go, I don't know if there's enough time in your life. Like, your kids will never forgive you. Like, you will just disappear. Like that's just the way it is. Like, I get to do this because I have no attachments. This is what I chose. This is what I fell in love with. And I wanted to create this avenue for me to create the life that I want to live. I want to be a film director. And if these are the sacrifices that I have to make in order to do that, then that's great. And I sort of, and that's to get it to a certain place. And when people want to work with me, I have to sort of warn them. It's like, if you're not in this because you love it and you want to do all these different things, if you're just here to like kind of mess around and have fun, like, go have fun without me, because I'm in this for fun, but I'm also in this to like do things. And I got a career that I got to look out for. I'm making a lot of sacrifices. Like, this isn't all fun and games to me. So this is like, so I guess it's sort of like a roundabout answer to say that like, this is like what I'm super passionate about. And I love when other people are super passionate about it. And the more we can build bigger teams, like, I'm a big fan of like a rising tide raises all ships. And like today I just recast somebody for Never Hike Alone that I worked with on another project. And I'm always looking out for people. Like, that's probably the best part of the process, is when I see opportunities for people that I've worked with. Never Hike Alone 2, like when came time for casting, I was like, finally, like, I got all these friends that need roles. Like, roll call, like, where are all my people at? Like, you're here, you're here, you're here, you're good, you're good, good. I'm cast up. I don't have to do a casting process. I know enough actors in my Rolodex that I know who I'm going to cast for everything. Like, I don't want to go through the casting process. I don't want to meet strangers. I want to be like John Carpenter. I want the same people in my films, like almost every single time. I want them playing different roles, popping in and out. Like, I want to work with my family. Like, that's why I do this. Like, I'm not doing this to be famous. I'm doing this so I can continue to do this with the people that I love and continue to create stuff for people who want to watch things. And that's about as great as it gets for me.
Speaking of people you love, yeah, we got to talk about Tommy Jarvis and how awesome it was that you went that route. How did you get to, how did you get to do that? And how did it feel once it was done and everybody was like, oh my God, that must have felt awesome. It was really well done.
Yeah, no, we have Barry J, who's the executive producer on Never Hike Alone 1, to thank for that. He's the one who was connected with Tom Matthews. He reached out to Tom, showed him our trailer. Tom became interested. I pitched Tom on the idea. And then throughout the process, I was really nervous when Tom was first going to come out, but he had a great time on set. He was great with everybody. He was really excited about the film. And I think that was one of the best parts about Telluride Horror Show, was that we didn't tell anybody. We didn't tell anybody he was there. And then he shows up at the end of the film. He's on stage with us. People are really excited about that. People are excited about it all over the world. And that's what I want. Like, I just wanted Friday the 13th fans to have something to smile about. We had nothing to smile about for so long. Like, it was always just like, okay. Like, or it just, we had fun with Jason X, and a lot of people like the remake, and, Derek Mears is great, and he's a great Jason. He's a great ambassador for the franchise. And, I nitpicked the crap out of that movie, but it's only because they had a $20 million budget and all the time in the world. But that's another story for another time. But for the most part, I recognize that it's got its own fans, and it's the thing that's carrying the torch for the franchise, and it has to in some way, shape, or form. But it's not having much luck when it hasn't had any support. It didn't have a sequel. Nothing else came out to replace it, to keep at least carry the torch from it. It's just, that's the last thing we had. And, and I was just sort of like bummed. I just wanted people to smile, and now it's cool. I mean, I'll try to keep this one short, but like, I saw Saw in college, and I just remember the end of that movie. I just remember being so wowed by, like, how did I not put this together? I can't believe it's the guy laying in the room the entire time. What a great twist. What a great way to, like, hang it right in front of you the entire time. This is great. I brought my friends back the next day just because I wanted to watch their reaction. I wanted to see how they reacted to it. And it was the same way I reacted. Their mouths dropped. They were like, what? Oh shit. And it was just kind of like a cool feeling. Like, this is why I want to make films. And so that was the early inspiration of what led to me being like, this is why we don't tell anybody about Tom. I want my Saw moment. I want that moment that just nobody sees coming. Like, there's no way they're going to see this because we haven't said a damn word about it. And Tom Matthews would never do a fan film. Like, no way. And even Tom said that. He's like, I don't know if I'd ever do a fan film. But when he saw our footage, so that's the other cool part about it. Not only do you get Tom to do it, but he does it simply because he saw your work, and that changed his mind. That is the greatest compliment anyone can ever give you, that they want to say no, but you give them something and you show them something that they can't say no. Yeah. And that is the coolest thing I think I've ever experienced, was having Tom be like, you convinced me with your work. And that's all I ever wanted. Like, I don't want any special treatment. I just want to go in, show you what I got. And if it's good enough, let's go do it. And if it's not, I'll move on and I'll go do something else. And so to hear that and to sort of see that reciprocated in other different ways from different people has been a super rewarding thing. And like, having Vinny Guastafaro come on and, having long conversations with him, and like, here's a guy that I went, watching on, he's in Jason Lives and he's in Shocker. And then I see him on Law and Order. And, next thing I know, Tom's introducing me to him, and I'm in his acting class, and I'm, auditing that and sitting down as a director and watching him work with his actors and working with him on Never Hike in the Snow. And, I just got off the phone with him, earlier today, and he was super excited about the project. It's what he's looking forward to. And it's a weird, like, life shift going from the side of, I was a fan of Friday the 13th. These people were my heroes. And now there's a lot of them that I got to work with Adrian King on Jason Rising, and I've, and everybody on 13 Fanboy. And so it's sort of like I ascended to that level where now I'm a contributor. I'm a cohort. Like I'm not quite alumni, but I'm about as close as it gets. Like without being an official alumni, you'd have to be, I don't know what I'd have to do to get over that line, but it's as close as I can get without going over it. And it's a really good feeling. And, and Tom was the first key to that, him sort of welcoming in this and sort of blessing it with his presence in the film. It gives it that much more credibility. And for that, the fans get to enjoy it a little bit more. They get to know that they're watching something that's got the Tom Matthews seal of approval. And, it's worth investing their time in versus, what they anticipate a fan film is, which is something that is just a bunch of people goofing around in the backyard. But this is kind of nice to not be goofing around. We're still goofing around, but we just do it with much more equipment. And then we do it right when the time to roll the camera.
Josh, didn't we want to talk about the fan films you made with your wife in your basement?
What?
Nothing. Never mind.
So what was it like working with Cortland and Ryan from Oddest of the Odd? They are some really creative guys. My son showed me like a YouTube video of theirs like 4 years ago, and I've been hooked since. So I was just like, I contacted them on Instagram a few years ago, so I've been helping them promote shit. Mm-hmm. And then when I seen that you added them to Never Hike in the Snow, I was like, holy shit. Like, so now these guys are about to team up together. I'm like, this is crazy. And
I remember you reaching out. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, and it's funny, like, yeah, Cortland kind of having his own, like I met Cortland because he reached out to me. Mm-hmm. He was in LA. He had just moved here with Ryan, and they were sort of looking for connections, and they helped us with Pathosis, and we just became good friends. We kind of ping pong back and stuff off each other. When I was writing Snow, I was looking for a character to play that Mark character. And I started with an older character and then sort of like swung it down to being the son. It just made sense. You know what I mean? I was like, oh shit, it's a mother who loses a son. What am I thinking about? And Cortland made sense to fit that role because that's who Cortland was. That's what Cortland does. I mean, he's a little bit more of a subdued version of Cortland. Cortland's a little bit more of a wild child. Mark's a little bit more of a mama's boy in that regard. Like he's a little bit sweeter. He's a little bit, but he's still got that filmmaker drive. He's just a young explorative filmmaker who wants to go out and get good shots, or photographer, filmmaker, anything in that realm. And when I got to meet them for Pathosis, all I knew is that Cortland and Ryan worked hard. Again, same thing I said before. Like they showed up, they put in their time, they never complained. They did it with a smile. They came up with good ideas. They were very resourceful and did everything they could to help us, do a good short. They're funny as hell. Me and Ryan go back and forth all the time. We have like a running joke on set where I just act like Ryan's the worst thing that's ever happened to the set. Like no matter what he does. And we play, but he knows I love him and he knows he's not messing up. He's actually doing a great job. And we have a lot of fun, and I always fake yell at him for like doing things right. I'm like, why would you do that right? What are you thinking? Like, and it's just like and he's like, he has like an act that he does. It's fun. Like, it's like we're doing our work, but it's such a fun environment. Everyone's a character. Cortland's such a character, and lively. And like, that's the great thing about like Andrew Lady too. Like Andrew Lady's a character. Tom Matthews is a character. Behind the scenes is a goofball. Like he's really funny, and so is Vinny. Like they're all hams, and it's just fun to be surrounded by a bunch of creative people who are all talented at what they do, who all bring something to the table, and they're all personable and fun. And so it's really a pleasure to have met those two. Cortland's working on Talk to Me down in Australia right now with the Racker brothers. With him, he's getting his first like real big movie experience. Ryan and him are always up to crazy stuff on Honest to the Odd. So I always like watching their adventures and their fan films that they make. And I know they want to venture into original things and telling those stories. I think we're planning to work together again soon. I mean, obviously, like now they want to pull me in to play different things, and same thing with them. I want to pull them back and put them in ways because they're just great. They're naturally talented. It's great. It's funny. And yeah, I just love working with those guys.
We talked about everything with the budget and everything like that. You guys just kicked off the Indiegogo campaign for Never Hike on the Snow. I mean, Never Hike Alone 2. Can you tell the listeners about some of the perks they can purchase to help fund the upcoming film?
Yeah, no, we're really pushing people towards the camper pack. The camper pack is something that's going to get you everything. You're going to get a Blu-ray, you're going to get a shirt, you're going to get 2 pins and a poster of your choice signed if you want. And that perk really helps us with raising funds. We need a lot of fans to back this. And we want to bring in more numbers. So it's not just about backing, it's also about sharing the campaign. So no matter where you come in, whether or not you're coming in at $10 and just getting a credit, which is also super helpful, we're trying to get, thousands of people to join. So if thousands of people each get a $10 credit, that multiplies. That's sort of the mission with this one, is sort of like, just don't back it and find someone else to back it with you, because that's going to take us to the level that we need to go to reach $150,000. Like I said before, we got 277 backers on our first campaign. Our last big campaign was around 2,500 people. To do this one, I think we're going to need to hit around 3,000. We're about 7 days into this one, and we have 857 people. That's pretty good start. Yeah. Knowing that we have 24 days left to add to that. So if we've done this in 7 or 8 days, imagine what we can do triple that. It does slow down a little bit. There's people who show up on the first day, but it usually compounds on the back end too, on the last days. So, there'll be some new stuff coming out soon too, as well. But, our main focus is the Blu-ray. Obviously you can do a pre-order of the Never Hike Alone 2 Blu-ray, which will come with the entire film, a behind the scenes featurette, commentary, the whole 9 yards, just everything we've put on every single Blu-ray to this. I mean, at this point, people should know what to expect when we put something together, which is really nice. We put together really nice home video, physical media. We go through professional, vendors. So these aren't like, this isn't Discmaker and the stuff that comes back and it makes it, you think it's like made in someone's computer in a basement. Like, this is the stuff that's made at the factory where, the last John Wick was made. You know what I mean? We're going to do the limited edition stuff. VHSs are available. Like I said, pins, shirts, posters, everything's available as an individual perk. When you pick something, know that, say you get a Blu-ray, you can do an add-on in the checkout cart. So you can add a pin on top of that if you want to grab that. There's some really cool perks at the top tier. There is get your name in the film. So you can be one of the characters. So we'll name the character after you, and then they will probably die, because all the characters with names that are disposable characters that are going to get murdered heinously. There's deputies. There's some characters that sort of meet Jason along the way. So there's some good opportunities. We've already sold 3 of those. One of them went to my brother, which is really cool. He's actually going to now be the first victim in the film. So when you hear his name out loud, you'll know that some bad stuff's coming. And we have some people that are already some deputies. So we got some really cool roles left. You definitely want to snatch them up before they go. I think we got 1 deputy left and a couple more of our victims. And there's some cameos that are going to pop up around too, but maybe some independent actors people have seen or people on YouTube that people will know that will fill some roles. You can be their name as well. We have fan commentary, which is your voice will go on the Never Hike Alone 2 Blu-ray as a commentary track. You will have a chance to talk about the film, what it meant to you, your story about Never Hike Alone or Friday the 13th. I will be on the track with you with several other fans. We will talk about the film. I will answer questions directly with you. One of the other things that we're really pushing, which is a $500 perk, which is the VIP perk. The VIP perk is really cool because in the last film, I noticed that the name list was very, very long. There were 2,456 names lined up, and the scroll goes by for like 5 minutes. And, it must be exciting to wait for your name to come up and see it. I wanted to make something a little bit of a place where if somebody wanted to invest a little bit more than that we would have the VIP special credit section. So that's where for $500, we will not only get like a whole smorgasbord of Never Hike Alone merch, where you're going to get all the posters, you're going to get all the pins, you're going to get a VHS and a Blu-ray, and the t-shirt, all that stuff. We're probably going to throw extra goodies in there for you anyway. But your name will go to a short list that is limited to 300 people. And the reason why it's 300 is that if we have 300 VIPs, that alone is $150,000. That will be the base of the Never Hike Alone Foundation, and everything else that's purchased on top of that will just go towards more kills, We'll add special features to the Blu-ray. We're talking about doing a master cut of, you know, everything from Disappear through Never Hike Alone 2 cut into one master timeline, like the Ghost cut. It will be a much different cut than the Ghost cut. So the Ghost cut's basically the films all just laid out back to back. This would be an actually intercut film that jumps around and more time in editorial. We would redo sound, we would redo color, we would redo some of the stock footage that we use in the commercials. Well, we would go and reshoot that with new like with the extra funding. We'll go and add the pieces that sort of that we can go to a hospital and shoot people loading bodies into ambulances and things like that, which would be really cool, which we think will add to the context of like the professional quality of the film. So those are really important. So we really want to push people who think that they have the means, they really want to see this film, that the VIP package is there. And if you really, really, really want to see this film, there's some producer perks. Those are upwards of as low as $2,500 for an associate producer perk and as high as $20,000 for an executive producer perk. We're looking for the big fish. You know, who's out there with the type of income that they would want to write off for a film production this year. They're looking to hide some cash. You know, what Marty Bird from what's that show?
Yeah, Ozarks.
Ozarks. If Marty Bird wants to give me a call, he wants to funnel some stuff with a campaign. Like, hey, I mean, I'm just taking backing, man. But no, I mean, we're looking, you know, the cool thing about the producer perks is this. It's an open invitation to now join our team. I'm not going to give away any roles in the film, although there will be background extra roles that I can give to producers. If a producer wants to go out on set and play a background police officer, a background nurse, a background, you know, townsfolk, anything of that kind, if they're on set, I'll invite them to be on set. They're also invited to come to set, not have to do anything, but just be there as a producer. They'll have a seat at Video Village. They'll be able to watch everything that we're doing. They'll be able to interact with all the cast. They'll eat with us. They'll probably be staying somewhere near us. There's going to be special producer sweatshirts that we're going to make for everybody, personalized. So you'll have your own Never Hike Alone 2 production staff sweatshirt to let everybody on set know that you're a producer. And everybody in your hometown, wherever you're from, you get to flex that. Name in the front of the credits, it's an above the line credit. It will be on IMDb as an above the line credit. You know, that will be at the front of the film. You know, when people first tune in and they see the opening credits, people have seen how we do our credits. You'll be there. And that's going to be a cool, you know, a cool way for you to say that like you were a big part of this. Ultimately, I think that this is a great way for Friday the 13th fans to come together and show their love for the franchise. I'm hoping that they see us as an avenue to sort of be a megaphone to say that Friday the 13th is still alive, and that by several Friday the 13th fans coming together and supporting this is how it's going to get made. I mean, it'll be nice if we get one of those executive producers to step in that has that type of income, but ultimately this film is going to be created by a bunch of people giving a little. And that's why I want to express again, sharing. Like our links on our front page, you see the little link icon right there when you log in. Share that on your social media page. Tell everybody how big of a Friday the 13th fan you are and how you'd appreciate if you'd help them fund this film that you really want to see. Because without everyone working together, I can only push it so far. My social, like, I don't know algorithms and things like that. I just know word of mouth, and I know word of mouth and personal, somebody walking up to you and saying, I believe in this thing is a lot more effective than, hey, check out this Instagram ad that's going by that everyone just like swipes by. And I luck out because this is Friday the 13th and people see that mask. So they stop most of the time and they'll at least look at it. But the minute they see fan film, they start to back off because maybe they had a bad experience with another one. Maybe they've never had an experience with a fan film, so they don't know. There's still that ignorance. People still associate fan films with what they used to see in the past. And if we can get more people to understand that this is a really good chance for Never Hike Alone 2 to be on par with A Jason Lives, to be on par with at least the back end of the franchise, and go after something that a lot of people really want with franchise alumni, that this is about as good as it's going to get for a long time. And this is our last chance to work with Tom Matthews and Vinny Guastafar and really build something, because if the studios come back in, there is a 99.99999% chance they are not going that direction. They're going to a complete reboot, and you will never see anything from the past ever again. And this is, this is our chance. And then the coolest thing about it is after we're done, it doesn't stop there. Like, we have film conventions that we go to. I mean, horror film conventions that we go to, horror festivals that we go to. We want to invite our fans to come out to those and experience this in a theater, not just get it at home on YouTube, but we want to go out and take this on the road, take this to the Days of the Dead Festival, maybe go talk to some, mad monsters, look at the Northeast. Like Never Hike Alone is going to be at the Never Hike in the Snow is going to be at the New Jersey Horror Con, April 10th. And we're going to be all over the place. You know what I mean? We're going to try and I want to bring stuff and do some more events with you guys back home. So it's really important for us to not only this be a internet experience and to be this a home video experience, but this to be a theatrical experience, because that's when it's a lot of fun. When we can get the film up in a theater with the sound system going, we have really good sound mixers. It's really wasted on phones and earphones and even home stereos. We have layers that only get picked up by the theatrical stuff. We build it for that too. And so a theatrical experience is really there. We want to take this film on tour when we're done with it. And we want to get people engaged, and hopefully this becomes a rallying cry for the Friday the 13th fans. We're going to make a cool movie. People are going to get a really great movie out of it. And then we're going to want more. And we're going to turn to the studios and say, now it's your turn. Do better than that. I dare you. And if you do, good, because finally, you finally listen. Exactly. You know what I mean? And if you don't, then I just kind of get to sit back and be like, was this all a fluke? And is fan film just a fan film? And where am I in this equation? And hopefully I'm a couple original films under my belt by the time that happens. And people can say whatever they want. Maybe they hire me to do the real one. Maybe they don't. But this is about as big as a dream coming true as it can get. So I'm very thankful for that. And I hope that people choose to back us and support what we're about, because this has been a dream of mine, and all of that passion is going to go on their screen and not a dime is going to be wasted. It's all going to go towards creating Friday the 13th content that makes your jaw drop. All I'm trying to do is give you saw moment after saw moment that you walk out of this thing and go I can't believe that all I had to do was give this guy $35 and I got this. Yep. That's the experience I want you to have. That's all it costs you for something that's, the same price. I mean, you're going to go to AMC and you're going to drop a 50 spot on getting tickets and some popcorn and milk duds. For less than that, you can have the Friday the 13th you've always wanted, and you get your name in the credits. Yep. And you get to brag to your friends and be like, remember that thing that came out and blew everybody away? You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You get to have those bragging rights. I want people to join in that and realize that they're just as much a part of it as this. I've come up with all this stuff as a creative weirdo, but without their funding, I am just a creative weirdo with a bunch of weird ideas in my head. And they give me the ability to get my friends together who are all super talented, to get Tom Matthews and Vinny Guastafar on set of a movie film that is going to be a horror movie about Jason Voorhees. What is there not to get excited about?
Like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of Friday the 13th. So I appreciate all the work and dedication, everything that you guys have been putting into all these films. So just keep going, man.
Yeah, no, it's that's definitely the mission.
So we started this thing where we have our guests kind of give us two songs, because we started a playlist. So we have our guests give two of their favorite songs that made an impact in their life. Can you give us two songs to add to this list?
Wow. You guys take heavy metal?
We take everything.
Okay.
Everything.
I want to make sure. Worlds Within the Margin of In Flames.
Okay.
Off the Horacle album. And then
In Flames, man. That's a throwback moment. Huh?
Yeah, old school In Flames. I guess I listen to the new stuff, but I just listen to it. I'm not sure I get into it as much as I do the old stuff. Although I still sing along, but there's just something about the old stuff that's so good. And what other song really sort of changed my life? Actually, Crushing Belial by Shadows Fall. That what got me into metal. I heard that song, the introduction. I can't remember what the introduction is, but it's the introduction into Crushing Belial, all the acoustic into that. I heard that on a tape, a cassette tape.
Yeah.
It was Metal Mix. And that just blew my fucking mind. I was like, whoa, it gets this heavy?
Dude, that's awesome.
show me more. And then that's the same thing that had In Flames on it. It was like this, it was a tape with In Flames, Shadows Fall, Lamb of God, and Kill Switch. Like 2000,
Wow.
like 2000, like in 2000. It was, blew my mind. And ever since then, I've just been a huge metalhead. I just went to the Shadows Fall reunion show at the Palladium in Worcester.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't go to concerts anymore because I have kids. I went that route.
Yeah.
So I don't even leave the house. But my two picks were I had Bolt Thrower off
Nice.
the Realm of Chaos album. Yeah. And then Rapture by Morbid Angel, because
There you go.
those two songs turned me on to metal. And I was like, what is this? Death metal. And
Yeah.
you know, when you get it, you get it. You know?
Yeah, you're a metalhead. It's just like horror. Like there's actually a great documentary coming out called The History of Horror and Metal. And it shows you the way that it's all intertwined.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Mike is the name of the filmmaker. I'm trying to remember his last name. But he did a great job. It's going to be coming out sometime soon. It's only on the festival circuit right now. If it comes into your area, if you see some film festivals, see if it's coming out, and maybe there's a link. I think if you just search The History of Horror and Metal, I think a website comes up. So I definitely highly recommend it. I saw that at the most recent Days of the Dead Atlanta. Incredible production value. I mean, they interview everybody. They got everybody. They're not just like interviewing like mom and pops, local rock and roll stars talking about how they think that Kirk Hammett likes horror. Like they talk to Kirk Hammett and he shows them things, and you go around. Like that's how connected this documentary is. And it was made by this dude in Brooklyn who did it as a passion project, just like I made Never Hike Alone. Like literally a guy who worked in the industry who just put these interviews together through connections that he had working in the industry. And it's a wonderful documentary. And if you're a big fan of horror movies and metal music, then I highly recommend this.
Definitely. I'm totally down for that. So that's cool. Thanks for turning me on to that, because I'll definitely be looking that up. So one last big question. You said you were looking to come and do some more events with us. We're doing Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th. And the guys don't know it yet, but they're going to do Jason Takes Manhattan, but I bought the rights to Jason X, and I'm going to show that instead. So are you down?
I can't commit to anything this summer. It's
What the race, Josh?
Yeah,
we're showing Jason X, guys. I switched it. Nobody likes Manhattan.
Yeah,
I
sure.
like Manhattan.
Yeah,
I think it's Kane's best performance. I think
Dude.
Kane really. But Jason X is fun. I had a lot of fun with Jason X when I saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
You guys should definitely treat that like a party.
Right?
Like it's a party film. Like everyone has to be at least somewhat inebriated, and then see if everyone can keep up. Because we tried and we failed. Because we said when we went with me and my friends, because we were the only ones in the theater, we tried to count every time someone died. So every time we were like 1, and then there's like 3 in a row, like 3, 4, 5. It's like try to do that. I think if you bring that sort of level with like make it participatory, like make it a drinking game, make it. I mean, I don't know if you guys can have alcohol on the premises, but if you can do
it's at a brewery.
Okay.
We do all our movie nights at a brewery.
Drinking game, Jason X. You guys got to make that happen. If I am in Massachusetts, I will show up. If but I might be in. I may be in California working on Never Hike stuff.
Yeah.
It just depends.
Dude,
I don't know where I'm going to be.
It might be later. If I actually really change Jason Takes Manhattan, I think everybody that comes to our events would beat the shit out of me. I'd be rolling.
Okay.
There is a room for a Jason X though. There was people saying we should do Jason X, so that will be one we do down the road.
There was
All
2.
right.
There's 3 of us in the
Those
room.
are always our biggest
do,
ones.
If you guys do a fall thing, I think I'll be around.
Yeah, just whenever you're around, man, just hit us up and we'll tell you what we have going on next.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to be. I mean, in the long run, I'll probably be relocating to Massachusetts. So I'd love to get with you guys and talk about different events that we could do. I think that it could be a really collaboration, like with Womp Stomp Films being back in New England. This could be a really great way for us to sort of expand into the community as well.
Absolutely.
And make stuff and create things, and we go to you guys and we start doing screenings and getting people involved, and hopefully more filmmakers in the Massachusetts area start getting involved in building things, and you guys can be a great place to show material.
Awesome. Yeah, we've been interviewing a lot of like indie films from different states, and it's awesome because they're pulling in like some big name actors in their films and stuff like
Yep.
that. So I'd love to start seeing that in, in our area over here. We just had on a group from Colorado that got Bill Moseley in a film.
Mhm.
Indiana, they got Tony Todd. It's like, there's no reason why that can't happen in New England. So
Mhm. Oh,
Dude,
totally.
we-
No, we're ripe. I mean, that's one of the things when I left, I was like, man, you could really build something here, but there was just it was just that time where nobody was feeling anything. And now when I came back home last year, I just sort of reckoned like things had changed. Like there seemed to be like things happening. I was like, wow, like all those old like stores that were shut down, there's stores in them now. Like there's things going on. Like this is nice. Like, I heard that they're expanding some film production studio stuff out in Gillette, or near Gillette. They're building some sound stages. They're investing in film, and that's really all I was waiting for Massachusetts was to invest in film. Do you guys remember Plymouth Rock Studios?
Yep.
Yeah, they were supposed to build that. And when that fell through, that was when my whole plan to like do 5 years in LA just completely washed out. So that's when I've been out here for 14 and I'm like, yeah, I gotta get out. I'm like, I've had enough. It's like, okay. I'm like, this is fine. Like, I'm glad I've learned things, but this is not the prices, honestly, like the insane politics. Like people are like, hey, listen, I'm about as like free and easy loving as the next person, but people are psychotic out here. And it's just unhealthy. It's like an unhealthy obsession with just certain things. And I'm just like, guys, like you got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
Like stop. You're just making your lives worse. Like you're causing your own diseases now. So it's been insane out here. And I need to go back to my people. Like I've always felt like I've come here and I've adapted, and assimilated, but I need to go back and I need to go back to being Vinny. Like, I've been Vincent for a long time. It's time to go back to being Vinny and being back in hometown and slumming around with my friends and creating, I'm armed with so much more knowledge and skill than I was when I left. And now I just want to come home and make things and do it in a place where like I know people and I'm like, I know who's got a cool house to shoot in, or I remember that old barn. Like I know the people who own that land. Like, hey, can we go shoot in your barn? X2. I'll call Ty West, get permission. Like, hey, I'm gonna do like what Goblin did. Like, oh no, what was it? Troll. I'm gonna make the Troll 2 to X.
Troll 2.
Like it's just gonna be X2. Yeah. But technically, it's not really a sequel. It's just randomly just a sequel to yours, non-related. Is that cool, Ty?
Did you stay for the end of the credits of X?
I did.
All the way to the end?
I did.
All right. So you see what they got going on.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I didn't realize it was her in the makeup the entire time.
These guys didn't see it yet.
Oh, well, I mean, like this isn't a spoiler. No, this isn't a spoiler. It's just the fact that like the actress plays both the old woman and the main star.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the same. I was like, is this an actual woman or is this a prosthetic? I don't know what's going on.
I knew from the voice. It like threw me off. I'm like, she sounds young, but it's just like, all right.
Yeah, no, it's actually, yeah. So like she wore that thing. So she played both characters, which I thought was really interesting. So I want to go back and watch it and see like,
oh, this is nuts.
Ooh, like they must have had a body double and like all this stuff that's a really complicated set. The thing I loved about X was the camera work.
Yeah.
Holy shit. The DP shot the hell out of that film. The opening scene was so good.
Awesome.
See it, but I didn't get to see it yet. So,
well, you'll see it. I mean, it's just, I mean, the opening scene, I'm not saying anything, but it's just like, just get ready
everybody's
for,
talking about it. So I
get
know
ready for a ride. Like, it's just like, that's what I'm talking about. Like Ty West created something that is a ride.
Yep.
Yeah. With the camera, with the characters, with the things that happen and the way the events unfold. Ooh, keeps you on. It's just good filmmaking. Like good God, that guy's a master.
Yeah.
You know, he's that, you know, everybody talks about the masters that we know about, the Carpenters and the, you know, and the Cravens and all those people from our childhood. But like, you know, 20 years from now, we're going to look back at the people like Ty West and Lee Winnell and you know, everybody knows James Wan, but I feel that like there's a subsection of amazing horror film directors who are just doing incredible work that most people just don't even know their names, but they're badass. And so he's one of them. I feel thankful to grow up in his era, because we've watched him sort of go from, everywhere from House of the Devil on. So it's
I've been impressed with how many people are actually like excited for a Ty West movie, because I loved House of the Devil, The Innkeepers, all those films. Like I was a big Ty West fan, but just to see like how much people were kind of pumping this movie up, I thought that was awesome.
It's I mean, and for those of you who like want to be filmmakers, like the fact that like it's so inspiring to know that like this dude kept a regular job like for the longest time, like even through House of the Devil, like it didn't like lead to him becoming like a huge Hollywood director. I mean, I'm sure he did stuff and made stuff, but like for a lot of it, he was just like working retail, and he made that happen. And so that's sort of like, I see that as like, for me, I'm like, that's what I need to go do now. Like I made Never Hike Alone, but there's always going to be that like asterisk fan film above it. So now I got to go make something original. And I look at something like that as like, that's on my vision board. You know what I mean? Like that's what I aspire to be. And, the same thing with like Jeremy Saulnier with the Blue Ruin. You see him go from Murder Party to Blue Ruin to Green Room. Like, and then he gets that, he did the Netflix movie. I can't remember the name of it, but Jeremy, I think no, I can't remember his name, but Jeremy, the guy from Westworld's in it. And Alexander Skarsgård is in it too. But like to see that ascension, it's like, okay, I got to create something that's like budget friendly. That's good. Okay. Challenge accepted. I got to make this Friday the 13th thing first, but I'll get there. Like,
you're on the way.
I'm on my way. Like, you're not going to take away my filmmaker card, right? Like, I get to make more movies after I'm done making the fan films.
Like, no, you're done after this.
You're done. Now that you did fan films, you're not allowed. Like, you're not allowed into the system. It's like
there was probably a time where that would have been the case, I'm sure. But like, I feel like this is a good time for this.
Well, now it's the time of the content creator. Like, you had a content creator just raise $685,000 on a horror movie on Kickstarter. The number one horror movie fundraising of all time, but the dude's got 2 million subscribers on YouTube. He's been building that fan base for years. So imagine this guy has 2 million subscribers, like 1.98, 7,000 people backed it. So look how much hard work that is. Like to grow a channel to that much and only get the 7,000 people do it. That's a lot. Like that is usually the differential. Like I think we have 50,000 and we have 800 right now. You know what I mean? Like there's a big differential for people who will subscribe and they will watch your stuff versus people who will pay for it. So kudos to that guy for putting in that much time to build the channel to then turn that into something where he can make his original thing. I feel like this is my investment. Never Hike Alone is my investment to that world. And like, if I don't put so that's what I'm basing this all on, like the fact that I have to do a good job on this. So that's why it's like, I want people to see that it's not just like a way, it's not, some cash grab. It's like, no, this is like my opportunity to show people what I can do. Like, I'm not in this to go fuck around and just make money. Like, I just want this so I can do my ideas. And this is how much those ideas cost. If I want to hire a stunt person, if I want to get stunt rigs, if I want wire pulls, like I don't get what all these people are complaining about the money, because are they not doing these things for the films that they're making wherever they're at? Are they trying to like backyard wrestle all of their stunts where they're just asking actors to jump through tables like friggin' like Mick Foley or something? Like it's not the way it's supposed to be done. Like this all costs money. Do you not see that? Like, are you not paying stunt coordinators SAG rates because you're not a SAG film? Well, I'm sorry, but I am. Like, I'm doing it the way that films are supposed to be made, that this is the legal way that people are supposed to be hired, especially when you have people who are SAG actors. Like, I got rules to follow and I got bills to pay. So like, if you're not doing it this way, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is what it cost me to make films in LA. I just have to follow the rules.
Well, Vincent, thanks again for joining us tonight. It's been, it's always a pleasure to hear you kind of talk about something you're so passionate about, and, you're such a creative dude. So, we wish you all the best. And we know that, we're very excited, obviously, for everything you have coming for us. So keep it up.
Yeah, man. I'm here. And I appreciate you guys always showing support. You guys have showed support since the very beginning. When I'm back home, we're going to have to go out for coffee again sometime.
Absolutely, man. All right. So everybody, make sure you check out Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow, all the Womp Stomp films. Check out his non-Friday the 13th films as well. You said the Womp Stomp YouTube.
Yep. So YouTube
content.
youtube.com/Womp Stomp Films, WOMPSTOMPFILMS. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. YouTube is where we post all of our films. We're currently crowdfunding for Never Hike Alone 2 on Indiegogo. Just search Never Hike Alone 2 Indiegogo. It should pop up in your search bars. Every one of our social media links has stuff posting all the time. So please back the campaign and then share a link with your friends and family who you believe also love horror as much as you, or would want to see Jason, or if you have any big fans of Jason, definitely put this on their radar so they can check it out. Let them decide for themselves, but assure them that your good friend Vernie is very good at making movies and will make something really, really cool that they'll be proud to be a part of.
Perfectly said. Good job. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and go support this film if you want to see more Friday the 13th films. Thank you. Have a good night.